The lighting, not my favorite right now. We're just rolling with it. Also, I'm not sure what's going on, but every time I go to upload, like every time I upload one of these videos, I don't know if it's the rendering, if it's the output or what, but the final video is not what the video was when I exported it initially to put on YouTube, and it's got this really weird like I've like washed out. It looks like I have a filter on. I don't like using filters, so I'm not sure why it's doing that. I don't know how to figure it out. I can't be bothered to, so I'm sorry. Apologies. I don't like using filters. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Anyways, so 28 weeks, huge milestone, huge milestone. Super exciting for me, honestly, which sounds so crazy to allow myself to even like be in, like the excitement of it. Sorry, I need to like prop my phone up. The wind is windy today. 28 weeks just feels like such a big milestone because I have crossed into third trimester, and I think every day is an accomplishment in pregnancy after loss. Every day is a chance to celebrate having another day of life with the child inside of you, because after something like this has happened, you do not take for granted the time that you have with your child. No matter how long it is inside or outside of the womb, it just feels like this huge thing to just be like, we have had this much time together, and gosh, I'm so grateful for it. And I just felt like I've almost put these markers on in pregnancy to help me get through, not to like be so forward focused, but to just be like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Like, keep believing, keep trusting, let's hope. And let's like, I don't know. It's so hard to explain, but like pregnancy after loss, it feels so daunting to be like, I have 9 whole months. If I get it, I have 9 whole months to wait through pregnancy to meet my child. And I don't know how I'm going to do this because it seems like such a long time, and I'm overwhelmed, and I am afraid, I'm scared that either this time will be cut short, or this will be the only time that I have with my baby. And it's a lot to carry, and a lot to look at from a really big, broad, long-term perspective. And so to have these small markers has helped me throughout pregnancy. And so when I first, found out I was pregnant, I was like, okay, like just make it to 10 weeks, like double digits. And then it was like, okay, let's make it to like 12 or 13 weeks out of first trimester. And then it was like, make it to 20 weeks for the 20-week scan, and make it to 28 weeks now, being in third trimester, and then make it to 30 weeks, and make it to 36 weeks, and hit 40 weeks. And it's not like this thing where I ever feel fully safe. That's not the point. I don't have like this like milestone of like, okay, if I just make it to third try, like I can breathe again. Like, it's more of just a helpful outlook for me to have. Like, I can look forward to the near future of possibly being, 28 weeks, like I've been doing. And it's been really helpful for me to just focus on that without committing too far ahead to the future, because it just seems like so much. So 28 weeks, I felt so excited to hit that milestone, so excited to hit that threshold and cross into it. And I feel like with Malachi's birthday now, I'm about a month out from his birthday, and navigating through that and the aftermath of it. And I feel like I have this lightness, and I'm able to, like, my grief has allowed me, and I've also allowed my grief to make more space in my life, in my world, in my heart, to open up my heart to pregnancy and orienting myself towards birth and preparing for postpartum. even though it's so terrifying and it doesn't feel like it's real for me still, I'm at least able to be like, okay, like I focused all my heart and soul like on Malachi's birthday and Heaven Day, and I was able to really sit with that and be in it and let my grief be where it needed to be. And now, because it's been acknowledged, I feel like I'm free in my grief to continue that journey. Obviously, it's not like, oh, it's his first birthday and I'm over it now. It's like, that's never gonna happen. You don't get over grief. But it's more of a thing of, it's evolving, which I've said in the past couple of vlogs. Like, I feel like my grief is evolving with my son, and I can carry that. And now I feel like my hope is evolving too. My pregnancy is evolving. How I'm moving forward with my daughter is evolving. And it's all these things. So it feels really, exciting, equally terrifying to be that open-hearted, but exciting to, allow myself to think like, okay, should I make a registry? Should I start to think about getting baby clothes? All of the things. And it just can be so overwhelming, because on one hand, you're like, I have to be prepared for this. I have to be prepared. On one hand, I'm like, what's the point of preparing for anything? The worst could happen. I don't want to do that again where I prepare and then it was like all for nothing, right? Which it doesn't, just because I prepared doesn't mean it was all for nothing. Like, it was still worth doing, but it's hard to get my trauma brain to align with my logical brain on that. And then the other side of things, it's like, I don't want to be too afraid to do anything to prepare for postpartum or anything like that, that I have now basically, no, my neighbor's doing drag racing, I'm not sure. On the other hand, I just want to make sure that I don't kind of screw myself over by not preparing anything. And then she lives, and then I'm like so overwhelmed with my postpartum because I didn't plan on having a living baby. So on one end, I'm like, why believe that I'm going to have a living baby? What's the point? On the other hand, I'm like, you have to believe that you're going to have a living baby, or at least prepare like you're going to, because if you don't and you do have one, then you're going to be caught by surprise. And it's just like, what's the point of doing any of it? I don't know. You do it anyways because it's worth it to lean in. It's worth it to trust. It's worth it to hope. And those are things that I'm kind of working through in therapy right now, to like honor myself in this journey and honor Eden in her journey as well, because she deserves it. She deserves a mom to show up wholeheartedly and believe in the best for her and hope for her and in her life. Even if it's hard for me to do that, even if it feels very out of reach for me to do that, I still want to do that for her as a mother. So as far as what I did this week, or just like what happened this week, I went to my midwife for my 28-week labs. We did a blood draw, which for whatever reason, it took 3 times to get my blood to come out of my veins. I'm usually like really good at drawing blood. I have no issues. I was super hydrated, and somehow like we could not get my blood to come out into the vials. So it was frustrating, and I had to go and fasted for the labs. So, it was frustrating that for whatever reason, it wasn't working, but it all worked out. We got the labs done and everything. And then we got to, I got to hear Eden's heartbeat, which I always love to hear. And then we were able to do some baby mapping, which I've never really been good at. I kind of got the hang of it with Malachi, okay, where's his feet? Where's his butt? Which way is he facing? Is he facing inward or outward? And so I was able to feel where her feet were and where her butt was, and even down in my pubic bone, where her head is already. She seems to be in a really good position pretty much. And she's definitely still moving around in there. She's not staying in one spot. That's already changed so much since we did the baby mapping, but it was helpful for me to just kind of feel her and experience that. And just hanging out with my midwives is such a treat and a blessing. These women really show up and have been there for me in my pregnancy with Malachi, in my grief with Malachi, and then now in the subsequent pregnancy with Eden. they have shown up for each stage of my motherhood so far. And it's been such a blessing to have that community, to have that womanhood, to have that sense of acknowledgement, because I don't always feel like a mom, and they always call me mama, and they never make me feel like I'm not. And it's beautiful to have that community. And I just think that art form is so lost. Like, midwifery is not just like a model of care. It's so easy to just be like, well, there's midwives, and then there's obstetricians, and there's OBs, and there's doctors, and pit them against each other. And really, midwifery is like this whole model of care, but it's also this way of being a woman and showing up in this time of childbearing, and the wisdom that these women have, and the love and the community and the empathy and the heart behind what they do. It's very holistic and in this beautiful way. And that word has kind of lost its meaning because it's such a trendy thing to have like the word holistic attached to anything. But that's why I love the midwifery care, and I love my midwife. I feel so loved and supported, and pregnancy is such a spiritual journey. It's such an emotional journey. And so to have that emotional care and support, especially after loss, has been such a blessing. And I cried with these women, and they prayed for me, and they just talked about, like, you know, my midwife was there in the hospital with us after we transferred with Malachi. And I remember just getting into that hospital room and seeing him hooked up to all these tubes and machines and IVs. And I just got to praying. My whole family, we all just started laying hands on Malachi, and we just started praying for a miracle. And there was such fire for God, such trust, such like faith that could move mountains. And I was fighting for my son in that hospital room. I was fighting with my faith, and my hope, and my trust in God and the word of God, and calling on God and the blood of Jesus to cover my son, to heal him, believing in a radical miracle. I just had radical faith. And my midwife always points that out because she was there and was also praying, but she was a witness to it. And she was just like, it was such a gift. It was such a gift to see you pray like that and believe. And knock down the gates of hell, you know, and fight for my son. And I just looked at her and I said, I miss that girl. I miss her. I don't know who she is anymore. I don't know who I am anymore. I've lost her and I miss her. That was the last time I felt bold in my faith. It's the last time I felt like I truly prayed a real prayer. And I miss her. And my other midwife got all teary-eyed, and she just said, your faith is so beautiful. She said, your faith is so beautiful, and it's such a beautiful thing to witness. And it was really powerful to hear that and to have that support and love. We're doing brave, bold things every day to believe that the best could happen to me after the worst has happened. It's about keeping your heart open when you feel like you just want to keep it closed off for the rest of your life because you want to protect yourself from ever being so hurt and so shattered. But you can't live a guarded life. You can't live a life full of caution. That's not a way to live. I'm trying to keep an open heart filled with joy and grief, and continuing to just be courageous, more courageous than fearful. My therapist said something like, it's about having more courage than the risk itself. And I'm really trying to continuously have more courage than it feels like the risk is actually there. And that's a scary thing, but it's not about overcoming the fear necessarily. I think it's about having more courage than fear. And it's a terrifying thing, it really is, but I feel like it's the only way to kind of move forward and live a full life that I know, to live a full life that I know Malachi would want me to live. So anyways, 28 weeks was great and beautiful and exciting and full of grief. As always, I feel like I have to reiterate it. It's always going to be filled with grief. So here's to 28 weeks. One thing I totally forgot to mention is Mother's Day. I experienced Mother's Day after my 28 weeks turnover or whatever. I honestly was dreading Mother's Day. Wanted to be excited about Mother's Day. Just gonna forgive me and my neighbor who can't stop turning his motorcycle on. Mother's Day was so hard, and I knew it was gonna be hard. It wasn't as painfully hard as it was last year, 16 days postpartum with Malachi, and it was a really, really hard day. It was full of pain and sadness and physical ache for my son and rage, and I hated it. It was just such a hard day. It also ended very beautifully with a double rainbow on my walk and connecting with a lost mom at the park just by happenstance. I think God knew exactly what he was doing with me on that. But this time around, it just feels so complicated because I want to celebrate being a mom, because I love being a mom to Malachi. I love being a mom to Eden, and I want to be honored for that and honor myself for that. But at the same time, I'm just so sad because I have no children out in the world to have celebrated, like to celebrate with. I need to let go of the fact of how annoying his dirt bike is out there. Mother's Day was really hard, and it just had different layers of grief and different layers of hope and joy intertwined into them. And I just told my family, I told my husband, I told everybody kind of in the vicinity, like, hey, I really don't want to do anything for Mother's Day. I just want to lay in bed. I want to be by myself and just ride out the day in a way that helps me. And so I spent the first half of the day laying in bed and crying and just honoring that part of my grief. And then at the same time, I also got out of bed, I got dressed. It was a beautiful day. I sat outside with my parents, my husband, and went and saw my mother-in-law and relayed the information that I wasn't going to be there and sent my love to her. And I had been working on this embroidery project, this sweatshirt for the longest time with an M outline and a bunch of flowers, like plumeria flowers and everything else for Malachi. And I decided to just dive in and do the embroidery project. And I spent a lot of time outside doing that and my devotional time with God and everything. And it was really wholesome and just what I needed. And then we had family come over, my brother and sister-in-law and my nephew, and we all just had a nice dinner, and that was that. And it was exactly what needed to happen. And I think Mother's Day is just so complicated for so many women and so many moms who get overlooked because they don't have living children, or they do have living children, but not all their children are here on earth, and they don't get acknowledged for that. No one reaches out and says like, hey, I know how complicated of a day it is for you. I'm celebrating that you're a mother, but I also understand that you're missing your babies. And that is something to be acknowledged. Please go drive away. And that's to be acknowledged and honored. And so I think Mother's Day is as good as it could be for where I was in this headspace this year. And I'm grateful that I survived and I made it, and I was able to enjoy some of it and honor my grief and the other parts of it. And yeah, so that was Mother's Day too. Okay, 28 weeks. you.